Would you like a really simple tip to help you read more of the great classics in the upcoming year? Because in this video, I'm going to give you exactly that. So if you're someone who already does lots of reading but would like to introduce more of the classics, or maybe your New Year's resolution is to start reading more and want to go to the really great books, then this video is really going to help you. Please watch it to the end, because in it, we're going to look at first the tip, which will sound so simple. Then we're going to take a look at what that tip will actually achieve for you, actually visibly show you what kind of books you could read in the year using the tip. And then we're going to look at two major benefits of applying this tip as opposed to any other way of reading. And finally, we're going to look at the biggest reason people stop reading. And if you can understand that, you can get past all of the inertia, all of the setbacks, and by the end of this year, you'll have read a number of the great classics. So having said that, let's dig in, shall we? So here's the simple method that will guarantee you read a good number of great classics this year if you apply it. It's this: set aside a time in the day to read just 12 pages of a book and no more. So the two places I recommend this mainly are, if you're an early bird, when you get up and are having your coffee, read 12 pages of a book that you've picked, or go to bed a fraction earlier and read 12 pages. Now that's not a lot. For most readers, that will work out at about 25 to 30 minutes in the day. If you read at talking pace, then you're looking at 36 minutes to 40 minutes in the day. Now, how doable is that if you're in bed, instead of scrolling and then regretting it because you've wasted, that goes on for hours, doesn't it? Just reading 12 pages of a classic work a day. Now, what I'm going to do now is show you exactly what that will look like by the end of this year, how much you could have read just reading 12 pages a day. So here's a question: how much do you think you would read in a year if you just spent half an hour before bed reading 12 pages of a book every day? I'm going to show you and you'll be amazed. You could read The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ulysses by James Joyce, In Search of Lost Time, Volume 1, Swan's Way by Marcel Proust, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the rather renowned Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, the brilliant 1984 by George Orwell, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and finally, a very passionate and fierce Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Those books actually are 9 of the top 10 classic books of all time, according to thegreatestbooks.org. Reading 12 pages a day, 30 to 40 minutes at night, you will read all of that in 1 year. Now, stick with me, because I want to explain not just what you've read, but if you belong to my Patreon community, you'll know the mantra is, it's not amount, it's how well you read. Could I just ask you, if you're enjoying this video, to take the time to press the like button? It takes just 1 second from you, and yet it does so much good for me and for all YouTubers who you enjoy. It's hard work and we're trying to share our best. So if you just press the like button, that's fantastic. Now let's carry on. So now I just want to talk to you about 2 massive benefits you get from reading 12 pages a day, and how in some respects reading this way is superior to reading any other way. I'm going to give you an example by using this great work, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Now, I've been 12-paging my way through this for the past 8 days, and it's been wonderful. And I'll tell you why. This is the benefit of reading a short amount every day, is it allows you to enter the book. The biggest mistake people make in reading classics, or any books really, is they think, if I read lots, I'll know lots. That is not true. If you belong to my Patreon community, you'll know the mantra, it's not how much you read, it's how well you read. Reading only 12 pages allows you to submerge yourself into a story. You get to talk with an author. You get to pay attention to what they're saying rather than just trying to get the outlines of the story because you're bombing your way through it. Even if you have great comprehension and read fast, reading only 12 pages gives you that time to take a pen, which makes all reading better, and make notes in the book or in a pad to the side of a book. To take the time to underline a quote or write it out in full. To write your thoughts on some observation that the author is making or what it makes you think of in your own life or from other books you've read. I'm going to give you just a very simple example of that. So, only read, 8 days worth of, 96 pages. Going in 12s. Just listen to some of these quotes which I've underlined. And by underlining, it means I've gone back and thought about them more and let them sink in. When there are many mouths which talk, there are very few heads which think. Not a lovely statement, so pithily expressed. We've got another one over here. Speaking of a man who wanted to go to heaven, but actually is a bit of a miser and he's very materialistic. He just says, oh, there is Monsieur Geberand purchasing paradise with a sou being the small currency in France, a penny. What about this? Examine the road over which the fault has passed. So instead of judging a person by mistakes, how about examining the road, their life course up to that point, before judging harshly how someone has acted? This one's lovely. He sought to counsel and calm the despairing man by pointing out to him the resigned man, and to transform the grief which gazes upon a grave by showing him the grief which fixes its gaze upon a star. And so on it goes. When we endeavour to read the classics, we think of ourselves as improving ourselves, getting some wisdom and insight from the great writers of the past. And yet we fall into the trap of thinking if we read more, we'll get more. No, let it go through you, permeate you. And by reading 12 pages a day, you have the luxury of time's blessing, to be able to draw something up and carefully go through and just enjoy being a citizen of the world rather than a frantic tourist who only gets the glaring sights and the famous bits. Be a citizen and know its alleyways, all its back streets, all its inhabitants. The other benefit you get from reading 12 pages a day is so good that I can't not mention it. And it gets you off a device. Now, I love going on devices. I love YouTube, I love watching videos, I love researching on the internet, I love all sorts of things. But we spend so much time now, especially on the addictive, the attention economy. Things have been trained to just keep us going on 30-second to 1-minute clips. And then we feel fatigued. The mind loves to dwell on things. Once it's trained to dwell on things and learn, and to be able to relax and spend time in something which feels that you've achieved or you're going somewhere, it's been argued there is no greater joy. It's greater than even all of the physical pleasures. Doing 12 pages a day before bed releases you from exhaustive dopamine hits and actually gives you something very worthwhile. It also develops a sense of self-control, a sense of patience, a sense of stick-to-itiveness, as I've once heard it called, where we get through something by maintaining ourselves on a particular course and accomplishing something large rather than just fractional confetti of thoughts which come through, scrolling. And again, I'm not belittling scrolling, but it's not the same as being able to dwell and immerse yourself. It brings you back to life, to see the great world rather than this imaginary one that we have constructed in our minds. So now I want to talk about the biggest thing that is going to set you back or stop you from doing this 12 pages a day. If you understand this one thing, you are armored, you have a shield to fight back when you want to give up. So let's talk about it. Very briefly, I want to talk about a unique sponsor for today, and that is you, the viewer. If you appreciate the effort that goes into this and enjoy the videos that are made, and you would like to make a small contribution to help me keep making the videos, then by all means either go to my Patreon and sign up for 1 month, or if you just want to make a £3 contribution, go to my Buy Me a Coffee page and make one there. You can find the links down below. I truly appreciate your support. Right, back to our video. The number one reason that people stop reading when they have the intent to read and they want to improve themselves, or they think this is my year to get into reading, and especially the classics perhaps, this is the reason people stop. They want to have read rather than to read well. Say it again. People want to have read rather than to read well. What do I mean by that? Simple. We may look at those books at the beginning that I showed and we think how wonderful it would be to have read all of these. But the thing is, what that does is it means while I'm reading this one, Wuthering Heights, you know, it's took me 12 pages a day. I'm now 96 pages in, halfway through the book, and it's took me 8 days. Wow, some people have read 2 books or 3 books by this point. And I do want to know what Moby Dick's all about. And I do want to know what Anna Karenina's about. And what this does is when you're reading Anna Karenina, you're thinking about 1984. When you get to 1984, you're thinking about Catcher in the Rye. And we become dissatisfied. We want to have read hundreds of books so we're well read. But remember this. When we dream about reading the classics and the reason for it, we want to have read them because we want to have gained the insight, the knowledge, the appreciation, the savour that these things give us. If you were to read 500 pages a day and read like loads of classics in the year, you wouldn't retain that much. Again, think of the frantic tourist who tries to see Paris in a weekend. They can't do it. But if you live there for a year, you go about much slower through the ways and alleys of Paris, but you see far more and you can take time to appreciate far more. If you go in a museum with the purpose of getting through every painting in the museum, how much have you really seen? All you can say is, I've seen them. But the person that goes every day for 20 minutes and looks at one painting gets to appreciate them far, far more. So have that mindset. It's why I like doing it before, with coffee in the morning or before going to bed. It's because there is no rush now. And so I'm going to linger in the pages. I know I only have 12, so I don't have to worry about trying to speed read. I wish I could read faster than I do, because I'm going to stop at 12. Now, I want to say something about this practice. If you are someone that already enjoys reading, this is still brilliant, because you may not want to just read classics. What this allows is whatever your current reading schedule is, if you like fantasy or you like murder mysteries or you like adventure or you like romance or whatever it may be, spies. I've just done the top 50 spy novels, by the way, in a video. Go and check that out. You can still read whatever books you want, but at night, just have this program of, I'm going to spend 12 pages on a classic. And believe me, your appreciation for classics will grow. Instead of them being snooty, it will be, oh, I understand why they have gained their reputation. And that's just through 12 pages a day. I'll conclude this by giving you absolute proof of this working. In my Patreon community, we've just finished 2024, and we averaged in our reading 12 pages a day. Because the point of Patreon is not to read loads, it's to read well. And these are the books that we read in 2024 at 12 pages a day. We read A Study in Scarlet, which is the first part of this complete works of Sherlock Holmes. We've just finished reading Cranford by Mary Elizabeth Gaskell. We read Death Comes to the Archbishop, this was a revelation to me, by Willa Cather. We read Time Will Darken It by the great writer William Maxwell, editor of the New York Times. We read Movable Feast, memoirs by Ernest Hemingway. We read The House of the Dead by Dostoevsky. We read Lark Rise by Flora Thompson, beautiful idyllic countryside novel. We read Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, phenomenal book. Lots of people have heard of it, very few people actually know what it's about. We read Madame Bovary, one of the cornerstones of great French writing. We read the comedy Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons. We read Down and Out in Paris and London, where George Orwell lived as a tramp, basically, in Paris and London for a couple of years and wrote his experiences. We read the brilliant Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. What a book that was. We read another comedy in Three Men in a Boat. And we read a book which everybody was staggered when they finished reading it, The Way of All Flesh by Samuel Butler. I mean, just to show you, that's what the community read, and it averaged just 12 pages a day. And something the community, not everyone enjoyed every book, but we got a varied taste of literature, and what everybody has said is for many, they've never read a book as well as that because they just took the time. And then we discussed it, of course. So you could read all of those, or you could read 9 of the top 10 greatest books of all time according to thegreatestbooks.org. I don't particularly agree with that ranking because I don't think Catcher in the Rye should be anywhere near the top 10. But nonetheless, you get my point. What books do you want to read? Don Quixote? Is it War and Peace you've always wanted to read? Is it the Brothers Karamazov that you've wanted to read? You could get through Bleak House, Middlemarch, Vanity Fair, so many. I think, just that, there you go. Don Quixote, War and Peace, the Brothers Karamazov, 12 pages a day. You would read that in the year and more. So I hope this gives you inspiration. You don't have to just read classics, but set aside half an hour to 40 minutes before you go to bed. Have the healthy benefits of not scrolling. Reading helps you sleep. And just 12 pages will immerse you in some of the greatest writing of all time. By the end of the year, you will be a slightly different person.